Welcome, art lovers, to the art vlog. Now, who is going to be the next new star, the next new big name that we all fall in love with in British art? Well, one of the best ways to find out is to come to Bloomberg New Contemporaries, which is this year showing at the Camden Arts Centre in Finchley, just off Finchley Road in North London. What are the New Contemporaries? Well, New Contemporaries is an organisation dedicated to introducing new artists to us, the art lover, and to the wider art world through a variety of medium, including this annual exhibition which I'm bringing you to today. Art students or recently graduated art students submit a portfolio to some judges who choose who they think are the sort of top 50-ish who deserve to be considered New Contemporaries, and then they are put on show. The New Contemporaries, or Young Contemporaries as it used to be called, started way back in 1949 in that kind of post-war period of hope in Britain. It's had a rocky road over the years, mirroring the British art scene in lots of ways. There's been talk of funding cuts, and also at certain points in 1969 and 1970 students took over the whole process. Chaos ensued. The Royal Academy apparently almost caught fire, and there was a brief lull before it was reintroduced in the mid-70s. Now, the strength of of the New Contemporary, or Young Contemporaries as it used to be called, is the list of names who have exhibited. Just check this out, and excuse me because I will be looking down to read these. There's so many that I cannot remember them all. But Frank Auerbach was one of the earlier contributors. David Hockney, Paul Arago, Derek Jarman, Patrick Caulfield, Helen Chadwick, Anish Kapoor, Anthony Gormley, Mark Wallinger, Peter Doig, Damien Hirst, Hardeep Pandal. Imagine if all of those artists displayed together, that would be some show, wouldn't it? So this show does have a history of picking the new big names of British art. But obviously, as I said, over 50 artists are going to be on show today. And so obviously it's about sorting the wheat from the chaff in lots of ways and seeing who we think is going to be a rising star. And obviously we'll have different opinions on that as well. So come and join me as we jump into Bloomberg New Contemporaries here at the Camden Arts Centre, a free show, and explore the future of British art. And I have to say, I've been a bit down on the contemporary art scene after the Turner Prize this year. Nothing to do with the Towner, which was fantastic, but just the works weren't that great. So I'm hoping that this will reinvigorate my love for contemporary British art. Come and join me. This was obviously a really big show, displaying works by 55 artists. And so what I've done is taken the top 15 or so artists that particularly moved, intrigued, or interested me and coalesced them around some very, very broad themes. But that doesn't mean that the rest of the works, which I will then show you, are not valuable or beautiful or interesting as well. You can have a look at those with some music and decide whether you agree with my top 15 or not. And also, I would say that the video works are obviously much harder to show on a art vlog, and so I haven't been able to show all of them. I'm not ignoring them, but do come along if you can get to Camden, because there are lots of video works which aren't on this vlog. This generation of artists were working during and after the COVID pandemic, so it's unsurprising that isolation features heavily. Thomas Cameron's 2022 work Delivery was a painting for our times, and it's already been bought by the UK government. The anonymous delivery driver waiting to get into some kind of gated block of flats talks both of the walls we have built up between ourselves and also the economic divide between the anonymous gig economy workers and those who use their services. It was one of the few oil paintings in the show, and it really struck out to me. While J.I. Wang's Nestled Shells in the Universe presents a snapshot of lockdown living in a chaotic, crowded flat. And it takes us a while to realise that there's a human in the bed looking anxious, pensive, stressed. Exploring identity and celebrating diversity were unsurprisingly big themes in the show, and this exhibition takes us to many parts of the world and to many places in the human experience. Henry Luxon's work, Newfound Freedom, sees the artist moving around the canvas in his chair with brushes strapped to the while you listen to the music of Lady Gaga's Born This Way. To me, it was a work that both celebrated inclusion but also contained real bite. Jill Mandang's work explores that key place where two different identities collide, while as Alana Sian's transmasculine cowboy smoulders as it subverts a very traditionally gendered role. Noah Klagsbald turns a female gaze on a male environment, in this case, a mixed Jewish Arab football team, something that's obviously taken on much more significance in the current political climate. The title refers to works by male painters of women. In this case, Velázquez and Manet, and so again, it's an interesting subversion of that traditional artistic gendered identity. There were many video works, and it's hard to bring them all to you on the vlog, but Alithia Rogowska's News Melody mesmerized me. It's a narrative work of a women's choir singing a melody of 5 songs, and it told me so much about how their lives in a rural village in Hungary have actually changed. And you can actually see this video in a link which I'm going to post below. Hester Young's video work, The Undesirables, is part of an ongoing mixed media work, observing and documenting the hidden history of the deportation of undesirable, quote unquote, Chinese seamen from Liverpool. I knew nothing about this travesty and was gripped by the film and appalled by the damage it has wreaked on the communities and families left behind as these men literally seem to disappear from the country. Another theme of these artists was obviously the environmental crisis that we're facing. And I found Helen Clark's work, Propagation, made up of these plastic kind of pet containers, both very beautiful and actually really disturbing as well, because obviously she's making a big environmental point about the materials that we use and their impact on the world. But there was also a sort of shimmering beauty to these, whereas Haneen Haday's like stark view of dead date trees was also chilling. A couple of works were harder to categorize, and they included Lily Murphy Johnson's 2023 work, High Street Jewelry, a mixed media piece where the artist carefully pours her heart and soul into making a piece of handmade jewelry before placing it on the shelf in an accessorized store where it blends in with the cheaper knockoffs, if you like, that populate such stores. And obviously, I really liked it. It was clever because it made us question value and meaning. The artist put everything into this, but that meaning dissipates when it just becomes one of many objects impossible to discern. Those of you who've watched the art vlog for a while know that I love a bit of installation art, and Zaid Menk's crazy cavern of discarded tech speaks of waste development and how quickly technology has changed. The tiny sealed phone that I shot this on has more power and technological range than all of these discarded works. And I really liked as well that some rudimentary CCTV camera reflects a flickering image of you back in black and white, almost as if you're a relic like all of these. And you see a Bakelite phone there. While political messages sort of hum below many of the works, some of them are explicitly political. And Igor Konka's dolls hung by their necks references both previous maltreatment of women throughout history, but also links explicitly to Poland's current repressive abortion laws, where the artist implies history is repeating itself. And perhaps my absolute favourite piece of the entire show was Sarah Cleary's chalk sculptures. Made from foraged South North Downs chalk, they seem to have been dug up from a very distant past. Yet the titles of these exquisite works suggest that they're actually meant to be talismanic objects for individual people. One is called, for example, for Sarah, brackets services are able to provide care only for those families in absolute crisis. Whereas another one is for John, waiting lists, ambulance delays, and inaccessible care have driven a surge in excess deaths. These are powerful works commenting on the vulnerability of our current society while also being exquisitely beautiful and intriguing. As I say, those were some of the highlights, and I sort of sat on this show for a week to really think about it. But that doesn't mean there was not some other fantastic work. So I'm going to put some music on and leave you to explore the rest of the show, and then I'll sum up with my final thoughts in a little bit. enjoyed that exploration there of new contemporaries at the Camden Arts Centre. I was hoping at the start, if you remember the vlog, that it would maybe be an experience which restored my faith in the contemporary UK art scene. And I think it did do that. There was enough work of real interest there to pique my own interest, and also to be excited for the years to come, because we have to remember with the new contemporaries that these are people fresh out of art school. They're not all in their 20s. Some of them have come to art school or an art training institution late, but they're at the start of their artistic careers. And so I thought, as a platform and a base for future development, it was a strong showing. I thought it was generally really curated across the lovely gallery spaces at Camden Arts Centre. My only criticism, and I always find this difficult, was the film works being shown back to back. So if you wanted to see every single film piece, you'd be sitting in a cinema, often up to 45 minutes to an hour. That's a long time commitment when you also want to explore the non-film works. And so that's why I couldn't show you all the film works. I did peek into most of them and immerse myself in some of them a lot. There were two really big things that came out of this for me. The first was that the sheer diversity of the UK art scene today. There are artists using the very soil of Britain, but also artistic influences from all over the world. And that for me is a huge strength. The UK art scene is basically a global art scene. And that's a makes for some very diverse and interesting art. Secondly, and I don't know if this is about COVID and lockdown, but there is no kind of art movement, if you like, within these artists. They seem to me very much to be individual artists pursuing their own interests, almost in silos. There's no kind of movement, a bit like the young British artists of the 1980s and early 90s. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Obviously, art is about individual self-expression, but there seemed to be very little discourse between the artists, and that made for a kind of eclectic show. So yeah, those were the two things I really pulled out of it. But it's on until the 14th of April, and for me, it is worth a trip to the Camden Arts Centre. It's the best overview you'll get of our recent art school and art institution graduates in one place. And I think we're really lucky to have it every year, and I always get excited every year. Yeah, not all the art, in my opinion, was outstanding, but a lot of it was really good indeed. If you're interested in exploring more about the UK art scene, then I'm going to post a little link to my Turner Prize review, which should be up here or here, I can't remember. And do click on that if you want to see artists who are more developed in their careers. Don't forget to subscribe to the art vlog, and most importantly of all, get out there and explore your local art scene wherever you are.